In this short presentation, we will be discussing the 2015 security breach on the Office of Personnel Management. This incident clearly supports the concepts that we covered within class and takes notice of the importance of key security programs and the effectiveness within networks. It brings focus to fundamental failures that made their security program ineffective to allow this intrusion. In April 2015, the Office of Personnel Management, OPM, detected a remote attack as part of an investigation into a security incident from the previous year. The attack, later tentatively traced to China, targeted records of individuals who applied for security clearances. Beginning in June of 2015, OPM alerted the targeted individuals of the security breach, warning them that their confidential records had been compromised. At the time, the estimate of the damage was only a few million people. As the investigation proceeded, the initial estimate was repeatedly revised, and the current estimate of affected individuals stands at 21.5 million, with 5.6 million of those records including fingerprint records. The total number of affected individuals may in fact be significantly higher. However, that number may not only include the people whose employment records were stolen, not the other individuals mentioned in those employment records. The incident was remarkable in part the depth of information obtained. Because the records that were compromised were the files kept on individuals who applied for security clearances. They contain extensive, potentially severely damaging information on some of the most important people in the United States, including social security numbers, lists of all or most social contacts and their contact information, fingerprints, education records, employment histories, travel histories, and other highly personal information. Any potentially compromising information that might make a person susceptible to blackmail was also recorded in these files. All federal employees, contractors, and their families were affected by the massive data breach. According to OPM, if the employee underwent a federal background investigation from 2000 to 2015, it is highly likely they were impacted. The data stolen was from the OPM's background investigation databases, which stored these employees' personal information from fingerprints to foreign travel history. To the right is a document that was sent out to all employees affected by the intrusion and what they could do to protect themselves. This included 3 years of free identity theft protection. So, how did this catastrophic security breach happen? Even almost a year later, the details, at least those available to the general public, remain unclear. What is clear is that OPM has adequate warning that their security contains significant vulnerabilities. Their security was repeatedly heavily criticized by inspecting agencies and had been for almost a decade. Then, in the year leading up to the attack, one of OPM's contractors was hacked. Despite this very concrete warning, security was still not given the necessary attention. Part of the issue is that for a long time, OPM had no centralized IT security department. Although they were working their way towards a single security group, these efforts were slow and gradual, and the work was nowhere near complete by the time of the attack. Because there wasn't a single team coordinating their IT security, there were significant vulnerabilities. To begin, OPM allowed for single-factor identification from outside, allowing stolen credentials to be used by exterior threats. An outside attacker only needed a single stolen credential to access anything the victimized individual could access. They did not also need physical access to the site or a second identifying factor. Compounding this issue, their software protection was anemic. Although supposedly they had mechanisms in place to detect and reverse unauthorized changes in software, these mechanisms were often faulty, allowing the attackers to change how their security software worked. To take advantage of those security flaws, the attackers installed a malware package, which permitted easier access to the security software and the network. Once inside, attackers were able to use the malware to change their user privileges and thereby gain clearance to copy a staggering number of individual records. The program in charge of preventing the attack, named Einstein, was given development priority and haven't kept up with new technology. It was insufficiently advanced to detect these attacks as they occurred. Although it was able to eventually detect evidence of the attacks after the fact, it was too late. The OPM breach was a very high-profile incident, and as such, the effects of this breach have been far spreading across the U.S. government and the information security community. The nature of the breach and how it was a persistent presence in the network caused many concerns. As a response, the entire information security process at OPM has gone up for review to assess processes, tools, and management of the security process. In addition to OPM's reaction, the entire U.S. government and relevant government contractors have initiated a review of security procedures, management, and policies as well. In addition to the lessons that OPM learned from the breached event, there are lessons to be learned for every information security management professional. To begin with, one of OPM's major downfalls was failing to centralize their security. With a single department in charge of IT security, OPM would have been more aware of flaws in their security, closing some or all of their vulnerabilities that the attackers made use of. Those in charge of information security need to fight for a cohesive, dedicated security force. In addition, OPM violated some very common security standards, such as requiring two-factor identification for off-site access. Benchmarking, or using pre-published standards, could have helped them immensely. Information security managers should be aware of the general practices in their field and keep current, using this information to set appropriate levels of security given the value of their information and networks. Finally, the OPM breach highlights the need for information security managers to have support from their organizations. In the OPM, security wasn't given the focus it needed, in part because the OPM didn't prioritize it. Information security managers should be willing to negotiate and work with upper management to help them understand the importance of IT security in their organization. There are many far-reaching negative effects of this breach. The unrecoverable personal data of individuals who currently hold or have held security clearances is available, as well as the additional threat of the biometric data of the individuals, which at this time have limited impact, but could result in future compromises. Additionally, the personal data of the applicant's immediate family was taken as well, to include children and spouses, which amplifies the threat, since many families do not attain credit monitoring or identify theft protection on children. Also, there is a cost of the U.S. government having to pay for 18 months of credit monitoring and the resulting cost of any identified identity theft. The positive effects of the breach are limited. The U.S. government and OPM offered credit protection to the affected members, which was not mandatory, and it did bring a light on the degraded capability of OPM security management and oversight of personal or protected data. In conclusion, if basic security practice would have been applied in the centralization of network security, this event might have not been so catastrophic in terms of theft. However, even when key security vulnerabilities were brought forth, OPM's inability to respond was at best ineffective, if not borderline negligent. This issue should give all IT and security professionals pause and question their security program effectiveness. Our team thanks you for taking the time to view this presentation, and our resources are listed on the next slide. Thank you, and take care.